I think I've had a love affair with New York City all my life. Sometimes in the dark of the early morning, I begin to question my own sanity. What am I doing out here? But then the sky begins to glow with the dawn's first light, and I know that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Winter mornings can be brutal, but the end result is always worth it. Whether or not I come back with a great image, I enjoy being out there, watching the day begin. It's really become quite spiritual. New York City always feels new, always different. The skyline is in constant motion, continuously growing, evolving. I sense the city's rhythm, and I want to capture its pulse. My camera needs to be capable of capturing imagery with the same clarity and dynamic range that I'm envisioning. Yet at the same time, it needs to remain transparent enough to not interfere with the creative process. When I'm exploring Manhattan with a camera and tripod on my shoulder, I want my results to match, if not exceed, my efforts. A great lens is so much more than just its sharpness. Each lens has its own flavor and personality, increasing your palette and expanding your options, while greatly influencing the final image. I enjoy experimenting with lenses that are different and unique. Cine, photographic, special effect, and even vintage lenses. And I need my camera to be adaptable, allowing me full access to the tremendous range of lenses that are available.
Welcome to Buzz Talk Live. For over 30 years, my guest Chuck Fishbein's success as a video director, a director or photographer, and cinematographer came from years of looking through another type of looking glass. He started his career in New York City as an advertising editorial photographer, shooting images from sports to cosmetics and everything else in between. He developed a keen eye and has transformed himself into one of the most sought-after DPs in the business. His work has been featured on all the major networks, magazines, and publications around the globe. Getty Images represents Chuck and his unique shooting style of New York City. He's also a member of the prestigious Sony Independent Certified Team, ICE. Chuck and his wife Sarah currently own, operate, and create under their company Crazy Duck Productions. So let's chat and welcome Chuck to Buzz Talk Live. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing great, George. Great to see you.
Thanks for being on time, I should say, tonight. It was a little touch and go there. You know, I got weather up here that I could be shut down any minute. It's crazy weather storms in New York right now.
Really?
So hopefully, you know, we'll be okay and we won't get interrupted. But where are you tonight?
I'm in Apex, North Carolina.
Apex, North Carolina.
Part of the Bible Belt there.
Oh, okay.
It is just beautiful down here. After 40 years or almost, the rest of my life living up in the Manhattan, New Jersey, to be down here.
What a culture shock that must be.
It's like being in witness protection.
Do you go by the name Chuck? I just want to make sure.
But I've really grown to like it. I thought I would miss New York City a lot more, seeing those opening images, remind me of the things I love the best. But
I mean, you're awesome in what you do, and how just like, oh my God, through the years. I mean, we've worked together in the past doing industrial work for pharmaceutical companies, and that's how I met you. And I knew right away that, you know, I was, you know, walking on the same carpet as somebody that knows what he's doing and makes beautiful images like yourself. And so, you know, in my open, you were like a studio photographer, an editorial photographer.
Right.
And that's how you kind of basically cut your teeth in the business. But you know, tell us the little background story of that, and you know where that all led to.
Well, I became a photographer. I went to, you know, photography school because I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor. So, you know, I was pulling a good solid C average, and it really wasn't taking me to any of the schools that I wanted to go. And a friend of my sister's suggested that you know, I also had a passion for photography, and she suggested I go to Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT.
Yeah.
And it was at the time, my grandmother had residency in Queens, so we were able to get, you know, the tuition inexpensively because it's a city.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
and I think it was like $150 a semester.
Wow.
When you think of, you know, and it was only a 2-year school, but it really did open my eyes, and it also exposed me to New York for the first time, you know, being a kid from Colonia, New Jersey, and suddenly I'm in the big city, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
And after you come out of school, you think you know everything, as you do. And I went into the first studio trying to get a job, and you know, they asked me my qualifications, and they looked at my portfolio and all this editorial.
Right.
You know, streets and hobos on the street, homeless people, and they went, "Yeah, that's really, really good. You know, you'll be starving in about a month." And and then they handed me a broom, you know, and they said, "You're the low guy on the totem pole.
Right.
You sweep the floors." But then I worked my way up, and I became a good photographic printer. I was very good in the darkroom. And I ended up working for some well-known photographers, Bert Stern and Richard Avedon, and they were big names in the fashion industry. And so I took fashion I did it for a few years and opened up my own studio very young, about 25, 26 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got into it.
I mean, working with film in the dark room. I mean, you're talking about the dark ages, Chuck. I mean, nothing is like that today.
I loved it, and
yeah, I mean, it's definitely unique, and something, you know, where they had the dark room, and you had to, like, you know, actually make the photograph. You know, a lot of the kids, you know, today, you know, they're spoiled, you know, and to learn the craft the way you did. And I did, you know, it really, you know, reinforces your craft, and you know, anybody can click on a mouse and make images, you know, but to learn the way you did is really important, you know.
It was more than the learning, which is important. I didn't come up from a technical background, so I couldn't tell you why the chemistry made the paper, you know, turn into an image. But there was a magic in it, you know, the magic of seeing the image here in the tray in front of you was a remarkable thing, and I never got tired of it. You know, tens of thousands of prints later, but it does help now when I you know, it helped me learn the basics, and now I use those same techniques when I work in Photoshop, or I work in Lightroom, or, you know, Resolve, color correcting.
You know, one of the unique things about this program is the chats. And, you know, people love to chat. They love to ask questions and comment on the show and my guest. And lo and behold, you know, we have a viewer, and you know that viewer, Larry Bogish. And so he's chatting, and you shot his daughter's wedding.
Yeah, you know,
and it was like having Rembrandt.
Larry. Larry, I'm glad I could see you. Uh,
Yeah.
I spent at one point in my life, my parents didn't think that photography was a valid business. That unless you were doing like weddings and bar mitzvahs, you were not a serious photographer.
Yeah.
They would say, "What are you trying to be, some kind of artist?" So,
They
and
didn't
of course,
understand, Chuck.
that's the kind of thing that gets planted in your brain
Yeah.
when you're young. So for 1 year, I tried doing that commercially and probably did 200 different affairs in a year. And then I only do it for friends like Larry.
Yeah, I mean, working with the public and working with corporate America is the
People think it is a very high anxiety, when they're coming down the aisle. In the days I was doing it, it would be the one photographer. It would just be you,
right.
with your flash and whatever. And if you missed that moment, you didn't go back and reproduce it. Now I watch them shoot weddings, and there's like 5 or 6 shooters, or 3 or 4
Right.
guy on one of those motorized wheelos going around, video camera, and it's a circus.
Well, he's saying read the rest, and all your photos that you took at that wedding was magazine worthy. Larry was saying, he's as you can see it there on your screen. No, he's right. I mean, how you frame a shot, how you light it, and everything. And we're going to get into that. But just going back to your on the professional side, and when you were doing studio stuff, I have this, but to set it up correctly, you brought in to the Mets, and you shot some of their stuff during the '86 World Series.
Well, I started actually with the Mets in 1985 as I was a portraitist. I was taking a lot of portraits, and I was hired to film Nelson Doubleday first, and Fred Wilpon.
Yeah.
Opening page of the Mets annual. I think they did like 2 annual.
Oh, okay.
So I was brought in to do that, and the very week it was right after Wilpon had brought in supposedly a wheelbarrow or several wheelbarrows with $10 million in cash to buy his way in.
I mean, an actual wheelbarrow. No, he didn't have that.
With security guards and everything. He said he could.
Oh, you're not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. No, this was a story.
Wow.
But then after that, a different design company I was working for, they were doing promotion for a camera lens company called Tamron.
Right.
They wanted to present the Mets with a lens, which was very common. Here, use our lens.
Right.
Pictures of it, and we can say the Mets use our lens.
Right. Exactly.
And I came in with this lens, and they handed it to their photographer, a very nice gentleman named Dennis Burke, who had been with them since the Polo Grounds, way in the beginning. And he was in his 60s, and he held the lens like this,
Oh my God.
So they asked me to come in. Could you please come in and take some pictures, and sort of say Dennis shot them, And I was like, sure, why not? I hadn't been to a Mets game,
right.
At that time, and I went in and shot, and they liked the images, and then I ended up being called in a few more times, and then I was there all of it.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was a lot of fun, and then it happened that the next season was they won the series.
Is when they won the series, yeah. So that was excitement right there. I mean, my God, you're
the first base box where the press was usually empty. There was like 3 or 4 photographers might show up for the papers.
Yeah.
And because nobody was interested in the Mets. And as they started getting closer.
Well, no, that year, I mean, my God, not to go sports here on the.
Talking about 85, and then by 86, of course, they were building momentum.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't, as one of the team photographers, I get to use the milk carton that was there. There was like this one plastic milk crate, and the
You got to
strata.
adapt, right? You got to
Yeah,
adapt to your
and then
surroundings. Yeah.
once
Yeah.
the series happened, I couldn't even get a seat in the place. I was in the back of the box because suddenly Sports Illustrated was there, and I think the guy's name was Rudy Muller, was the photographer for either the Daily News or the Post, and he was the big guy. And
Wow. Wow.
he's like, "I sit here today," and they said, "Let him sit here, because it's promotion. They want the news."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was great, and then once they won, they fired all of their. It was a very family-oriented team, and small. They worked with small, little promotion companies and advertising companies. And then when they got big, suddenly they went with a big advertising agency.
So 86 basically put them somewhat on the map, because that was, their big championships year. And, they hit all the magazines. Yeah. I mean, so they kind of went in a different direction from where they were, leading up to that point. But I want to get back to the chats, because there's a chat there. I don't know, the cameras that you use, Chuck, and if you can, they have a viewer there up to par that's saying ask him about Sony cameras. I have, is it a good camera to, I guess the SLRs that are out today. Can you speak on that? Well,
all cameras, whatever camera you have in your hand, that's the best camera. That's first thing. When people ask me, I'm often asked to speak at NAB, which is the National Association of Vegas, and people come up to, is this camera good? Is that camera good? And first thing I have to ask them is, what is it you do?
Right.
People will say, gee, should I shoot in the RAW format? Do I need 300 frames a second? I was like, what do you do? And the guy goes, I shoot weddings, or, I take pictures of my kids. I'm like, well, if you can afford it, get the best one, but really you need to tailor your camera to what you're using.
What you're doing, sure.
What you're doing. The new cameras, the new digital SLRs, are not my favorite, only because of their form factor. I'm used to. I started with a film movie camera, 16 millimeter, 35 movie cameras. So I'm used to having a camera on my shoulder or holding a camera like this. But to go to the same format that I was doing for still photography has always been awkward. And then you take this beautiful small camera that gives you an amazing image, and then you have to rig it up with all these. Hold on a second. Let me show you what I mean.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Take this tiny little camera.
I love show and tell.
Take this tiny little camera and you rig it up with all this stuff.
Right.
Monitor, a recorder, a viewfinder.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's as big as my FS7 or my F55.
That's some rig you got there.
And it's a new Nikon, and it's amazing. And Sony would not like to hear me say that, but it's I've been using Nikon cameras and lenses for 35 years.
Wow.
And I still use some of my original lenses on my video cameras. So
I want to get into your company because after coming from the photo world, the photography world, you kind of meshed yourself and launched yourself into the video world, which you are in right now. And whatever you learned from that world, you went into the video world, and I'll tell you, it's amazing that it's so important as a photographer like yourself, because you're framing a shot as you would in the still world, but I mean, I'm going to show some of these images, and they're so beautiful the way you shoot, and so tell me how. Yeah.
Before you do that, a good a person that we both know, Barbara Benedetto, who ran Prompter
Yes,
for
Barbara Di
Denver.
Benedetto. Yeah.
She one day she came on one of our projects and she said, I can't believe how many times you've reinvented yourself. And I think it's a key to happiness. You know, it's just not doing the same thing over and over, but
Exactly.
you sort of evolve with the flow. I could sit there and say, gee, the market isn't what it was when I started, or gee, I just missed the glory days or whatever. But no, you just sort of go with the flow and change things as they go.
Yeah.
So go ahead,
Yeah.
show your images. But you
No,
know,
I
Barbara also was famous for saying, anytime there would be a decision, you know, between I'll think of that. I'm sorry, I totally lost my jacket. Oh, you know, what is the word? Banana. Oh, banana. But anyway, I'll think of it. Sorry, I'll come back to it.
No, so no, I want to talk about Crazy Duck, because that's the company you're now you formed with your wife Sarah,
Yes.
and I want to well let me run this video to set her up, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
Sarah is my partner and Crazy Duck's senior producer. She organizes everything and makes it all happen. Although she's an excellent photographer and filmmaker in her own right, we enjoy working together more than apart. More importantly, she shares my passion for the city, and when time allows, we explore it together. We are fortunate to have a diverse and eclectic circle of clients, and because of that, we're responsible for creating a wide range of film types, from advertising and marketing to documentary and editorial. So the cameras we use have to work for us in many situations, and they have to work well together. So whether we're working together with clients or I'm out on my own, I'm always discovering new ways to embrace the experience. Doing what you love and loving what you do is an unbeatable combination. Having the right tools that'll help you achieve your vision is an essential part of the creative process.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, I tell you,
It's been a great honor representing Sony. I mean, gosh, I mean, they often send us cameras that, you know, beta test cameras that aren't on the market yet, and they just,
right.
you
So
know.
yeah, I want to talk about that. So this Sony ICE team that you're a member of. So you beta test the products before they go to market, or how does that work?
It's happening less because they're doing it more in Japan. They've been cutting back, but they would, you know, send us a camera, or we would be members of the team would be part of the development of the camera, where, you know, through non-disclosure agreements and stuff, they would show us parts and designs and things and ask our input, and we would help them. You know, then they would totally not listen to us. They you know, you would say, like, you wouldn't put this here because that's awkward to use as a cinematographer. You'd really want this over here. And they go, They'd all like shake their heads a lot, and then go do what they want to do anyway.
So I shouldn't say what your favorite camera is, because that's one of the chats in the chat box. I mean, I don't know if you're privy, you know, to stay with Sony and
Oh, no. I will use whatever works best for me. We just started playing with an old Ursa minor 4K camera. Ursa, what's it called? Ursa 4K Mini Pro. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And it makes beautiful images.
Right.
I have several Sony cameras, but you know, it's whatever does the job.
Yeah, look, you know, Sony, Nikon, Canon, all the major brands, they all have a flavor of how they produce images from the chip that's inside. Not for nowadays in the
answer the
digital state.
question, sorry, to answer the question that I see up on the chat, my everyday go-to camera is an FS7 Mark II.
FS7 Mark II.
Sony FS7 Mark II. It's a shoulder cam or tripod cam. It's a weighty thing, and I use it mainly with Nikon lenses, sometimes with some Sony lenses.
Yeah. There's a difference between the glass and how it's cut. Well, I don't want to get too technical.
Old glass is sometimes good, and it has flaws that you might enjoy. Things that they have. Every lens has a characteristic, just like it's just more colors for your palette.
So let's get back to Crazy Duck. Crazy Duck. How did that name come to be, Chuck?
I was working in Ireland as a photographer. I was doing an album cover for a group called Bagatelle. And Bagatelle was one of the first progressive bands in rock bands in Ireland that didn't dress up in tuxedos.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they used to have show bands there, and they would very formally sit there, in their
show bags?
Show bands, they called them.
Oh, show bands. Okay.
Show bands. Where they would do traditionally Irish music,
right.
Also throw in a few rock songs. But Bagatelle came out there with regular clothing and stuff, and they became a big hit. Larry Mullen, the drummer for U2, once said, "We used to call them Bag of Money, and we wanted to be like them because they were so much money, So
yeah.
Also helped in the name of Crazy Duck, and if I can tell you that I had been in Ireland and working on a music video for a young American group called Insidious Threat. It was a thrash video, and it started with a kid in getting a parking ticket and ending up in the electric chair. And it was a crazy video, very low budget, but that made it even more fun.
Right.
And a whole group of people were watching in the control room. And when I got out, that drummer said, "That's crazy. You're one crazy fuck. You're just one." He said, "That's amazing. You should call your business One Crazy Fuck." And I was like, well, it's got a nice ring to it, but
you just can't go with it.
It's not my corporate clients, and he said, "Then you should call it One Crazy Duck, but you'll know what it means." So, and the name was born,
Wow, that's a great story.
And I took that back, and it became
because this has got to be the first company I've seen with Crazy Duck in the title. That's pretty cool.
The great thing, the whole ducku.com actually came from a company, Altered Image, which Larry knows very well, and
Yeah.
And in the days when websites were fairly new, URLs like that were available, and they gave me the choice of ducku.com like that, or DUCK with a U.
Right.
And I was like, yes, yes, go. And gosh, we've had offers for that name so many places.
Wow.
We've been offered money for those names, but I'd never let it go.
So you mentioned you went to Ireland, and I have this next clip that you shot some seascapes and really beautiful stuff. You went there on vacation?
In the end, I did, but in the beginning, I couldn't get into after I did this. Let me back up just a little bit. When I was there to do photography for this group, the record, a lovely gentleman by the name of Jack McNeese said, he was the president of the label. This was the Harmac record label. And he said, "Well, it's a lot of money, but I'll pay this money, but I need you to direct the music video as well." And I had never directed a music video. I anything except a Super 8 film in high school.
Right.
And I said, sure. And I panicked at that moment. I ran out and I bought a secondhand Super 8 camera and just shot a ton of footage. And
what
and
year are we talking about here, Chuck?
this would be 1986.
Oh, okay.
In fact, yes.
So you're actually loading film on a Super 8.
Super 8.
Super 8. I've used it. I know.
Yeah. And it was so, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I brought it into this Irish editor, and his name was Maurice Lemon. And Maurice has since become quite famous as a director, and that's part of the story as well. But Maurice was a young, new editor, and he saw this stuff, and he was just like, Jesus, this stuff is amazing, you know? And I was like, they're going to throw me out of here, aren't they? But they just thought I was outrageous, this Yank from the States. He's just
he's killing it.
Because I didn't know any better, which is a blessing sometimes. And so they cut this thing with me, and I was scared, but when I saw the first couple of images dissolve over each other and actually become an image, I suddenly, this air of confidence came in. I was like, I do know what I'm doing here. It was just in my brain. And
Did you go like this? Did you go like this?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it was more like this, To be honest, I
don't know why I did that.
You're paying me money, so.
Right. So now this clip that I'm going to show.
That was the clip.
Going Home, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
Chris Devine. God, Chris.
I'll tell you, I'm blown away. I mean, it's so beautiful, and the way you work the sky, and it was very moving. All the images.
Couple of things about that. One thing I'm realizing after all this time is when I see the images like that, it not only evokes a memory of being there. You you're back there. That's one of the joys of doing what I do is you're back where you were.
Right.
I could smell the air and feel
And the peat.
Feel the weather still there. Yeah. Oh, the peat. Yeah. And the joy of putting images to music is just terrific. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
So I want to talk about that. So depending upon the project and, you know, and given where you are in location, do you sense like where it's going to go as far as the music track to the...
No, those particular images, there was a gentleman who used to run a label. His name was Don Rose, and he was president of the Rykodisc label.
Oh.
And one of the first record companies to be only CDs.
Oh, wow.
And he had this idea of creating environmental videos to just relax. And each of those images were shot for about 20 minutes each, actually. I made it faster for the video.
Right.
But and we created several hours of just relaxing visit the country videos. And it never took off, but it was a wonderful project.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as the, now what did you use to shoot that? What camera?
That was a PD-150. That was also a Sony. I think I used both Sony cameras and a couple of Panasonic cameras at that time.
Okay.
So it was great. They were.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the way you worked the slow motion in, everything. You know, the composition. I mean, well, you're good. You're good.
So sweet of you. That's very nice.
Yeah, no. So I want to fast forward now. You've done a little rock and roll in your life, and you've been on tour with a couple of bands. And the first, well, I have a U2 clip that I want to show.
Just before you start that, this goes back to that same editor, Mars Lennon, and the editing suite that we were working in was a place called Windmill Lane, and U2 was also a fledgling group at the time I was beginning, and they were locked away in the studios at Windmill Lane, and their manager was just like, "You're not ready yet. You're not ready. You got to record." Right. So the people that were in that place were growing up with them, and two of them formed a company called Dream Chaser, and they did a lot of work with some of the early YouTube tours, Rattle and Hum, the Zoo TV tour. Mm-hmm. And Mars called me back, and just briefly, I'll tell this story. His producer, a gentleman by the name of Ned O'Hanlon, called me one day and said, "Do you know anybody who has a photo booth?" And I was like, "Well, what do you need a photo booth for?" He says, "U2 wants to set up a video confessional in Giant Stadium. And they're going to put a camera in there, and people come in and confess things." So I happened to know a guy in I think it was Springfield, a company called Runyon, and they had photo booths. So they were ecstatic. Didn't matter what it cost. They needed it immediately.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Well, do you know anybody who does time-lapse photography? We're looking for somebody to film the setup of the stage at Giant Stadium for like 3 days and show how it all comes together."
Right.
And I'd never done this before in my life. I said, like, well, tell me what does it pay? And he says, "Oh, it's about $7,000. I'm like, "I do that.
I could do that."
And you do? And they were just relieved, so relieved that they found somebody that they didn't question it. And again, I went out and got a whole bunch of great. And
you're a very smart businessman.
Some of them had like intervalometers in them that allowed you to do time lapse. So that's how I got involved in and it was so funky and weird looking and not professional that the band thought it was incredible.
Yeah. And so you were this clip that I'm going to show, you actually you were the lead photographer on it.
Yeah. Is it if it's Bullet? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look. So I got to ask, how many cameras were that?
That was my one camera. Most of the color work is my camera, and it was shot over 2 nights. But there
Wow.
was also the stage cameras. The whole thing of Zoo Tour was Zoo TV, and they had
Oh,
the jib operator and the tracks and everything were part of the show and meant to go up very close and shoot in the edge of space and things like that. So
right.
my being on stage was no big news. But there's a scene at the end of that. I was told that we were in a stadium very similar to Giant Stadium, just a big football type stadium, and they were at the goal line was the main stage, and then a B stage came out all the way to the 50-yard line. And I was told, well, Bono's going to come at a certain point. He's going to come to this part of the stage and jump in front of you, and which he does at that point, and then he's going to do it again, and that'll be the video. I misunderstood something. So he comes and he jumps in front of me, and I got the shot, and I'm feeling great. And he goes back to the stage, and he's doing all these things. And then there's this last line of the song, and it says, "And we run into the arms of America." It echoes off, and he says, "And we run," and he runs right past me, and I'm like, well, you could see it on my camera. I'm going like, where's Bono? You know, and I turn, and he is now at the end of the stage. He's about
Oh my God.
20 yards.
He didn't stick to the script.
and so what do? I just ran.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kneeled down in front of him and shot up and got the shot into the arms of America.
That's it.
Looks down, winks at me, and then I'm down there, and then I realize that I'm butt cracking about 40 and I slowly reached my hand back to pull my shirt down, but it was too late. It was just, and remember the lighting tech, the lead lighting director said, "Is it possible that you could stay out of the spotlight?" You know, that's like, not in this light.
You know, I tell you, in those situations, to get the shot, you got to go commando. You got to do it, you know, and that's why you're in black. And you know, you got to.
I was in black.
To get that shot, and you got it. That's great.
They still laugh. The production crew still laughs because I was in black with white sneakers, and if you go through the video,
Chuck, you got to get the gaffer's tape. Come on, I made a suit out of this thing. I made ties. It's you know, come on, gaffer's tape. You do your shoes.
That led to that association led to a string of rock performers that I did with them, and I was fortunate to be the director of photography on a few Foo Fighter shows that ended up in a DVD and other, you know.
Yeah, one rock band leads to another, you know. Yeah. And
I was on 4 U2 tours, and I toured with Garth Brooks and a lot of artists.
Oh yeah, Garth Brooks. He's big into sports. I know he likes playing baseball, and I think you got a little Garth Brooks story.
Well, he when I first met him, he was I had to ask him a few questions, and I was there before the director and the producer, and I was told to introduce myself, and it was in the Target Dome in Minneapolis or something like that. And he was backstage around the back. They had a portable basketball net that they would bring everywhere, and they were playing ball. And I said, "Garth, I need to talk to you." And he said, "Well, if you want to play with me, you gotta play ball." And in this really high, beautiful voice. And he was always a kidder. He's an amazing politician. He would remember your name. He would remember your name 3-4 years down the line if he only met you once.
Oh wow!
And he's a genuine soul, and what a wonderful person. I really enjoyed meeting him, meeting his first wife. Didn't get to meet his second wife, but
you know, one of the things that you've done, and you created technology too. I mean, you did something with Six Flags, where you used separate cameras to outfit a roller coaster. to get a shot. And you're there with Sarah, and you're outfitting your rig on El Diablo.
I had the pleasure of working with Six Flags for close to 25 years,
Wow.
and or 20 years, I should say. And they were a wonderful client, and they were there too was a very almost family-oriented business, even though they're this giant company. And I enjoyed working with all of their people, and that led to other productions too. But because we had expertise in mounting cameras to coasters,
Right.
and it used to start with like a beta cam mounted on the camera and strapping this giant,
Right.
18-pound camera on it, all the way to, before GoPros were invented. But it led to the one with Colbert, where we
and I got that clip. I want to show that clip of Stephen Colbert, because this is hysterical. When I saw this, because I tune in and out of his shows sometimes, but I missed the show, and I thought this was so funny. And what you did, so you did this kind of the same. You outrigged the roller coaster.
Well, we rigged it backwards. We rigged 4, maybe 5 GoPros on there. We had an incredible sound that had shotguns into the back of the seat. We were actually in the first car, and they were in the second car.
Oh, so you actually rode the roller coaster?
Yeah, well, on the very
That's
first.
Dangerous, man.
Make sure that you're strapped in the same way you would be normally, but I wasn't turned around backwards. The cameras were mounted.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I don't want to give the wrong impression.
Let's. I can't believe you were on that thing. That's crazy, man.
Only for the test run. After that, we would just let it go.
Then you strapped in the cameras and
go.
I
And
tell
at this
you.
point, other GoPros, we had like 5 GoPros.
Yeah. That with the wide angle, you captured the moment.
And it was lovingly edited by his editors. We just supplied footage and
you
sound.
just supplied the footage?
And the sound guy, Evan, did such a good job that they were like, "Do you have any sound effects of coasters? Because it's so quiet that we can't hear the ride."
Yeah.
So we supplied them with additional footage, additional sound footage of the ride, so they could add that in later.
Okay. Do you do Foley work too, or?
No. But we would film. Part of our job at Six Flags was creating B-roll for all their promotions, all their advertising and things. And we still see our footage appearing in their stuff.
That's great.
And
that's great.
So we would just have miles and miles of roller coaster.
That looked like a very fun production to do.
He did four different. We worked from about 6 a.m. to 10. We had to get off the ride by the time the park was ready to open.
Right.
He did 4 different guests in one morning.
Wow.
So they showed them over a period of the year.
Yeah.
And he was a trooper, but he was very sick at the end. He apologized later for not, hanging out at the end because he was so sick.
I don't know. You got to recite the Moby Dick book. It's like, oh my God.
He's a real professional.
Yeah. So you work with iHeart too, iHeart Radio.
Well, how connections happen and get reinvented, things become reinvented.
Amazing how that happens, isn't it?
Our friend Angel worked at Six Flags as one of their PR people, and she grew in the ranks of the Six Flags organization, and then she started with the fledgling iHeartRadio.
Oh wow!
And she brought us in because she knew we could produce the right kind of promotional package, or to show off for the press what was needed. And so we've been on every festival since the first one about 7 or 8 years ago. It started in Vegas, and we've done like 70 shows. We do all of their carpet work. We'll do some behind the scenes. We'll interview talent.
Right.
Gosh, everybody from Gaga to McCartney, we've had a chance to interview her.
I have an iHeart clip here, John Legend and One Republic that you did. Let's take a look. Yep.
Baby, tonight's the night I let you know. Baby, tonight's the night we lose control. Baby, tonight, give me that. Tonight, believe that. Tonight, I'll be the best you ever had. I don't wanna brag, so tell me what you want to hear. Something that will light those days. Sick of all the insincere. I'm gonna give all my secrets away. But this time, don't need another perfect line. Don't care critics ever jump in line. I'm gonna give all my secrets away.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
We started out just doing a press package, and then Sarah, within like 3 years, became the on-camera speaking talent and started interviewing artists on the
Oh,
carpet.
is that right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun,
Oh, that's awesome.
and we would always be first in line before the paparazzi, you know. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
would
yeah.
talk to people, and sometimes they'd go down the line, and sometimes they wouldn't, and everybody would be, oh. So we always get to interview people because it was for the house. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really enjoy working with them.
So what you're doing now, Chuck, is you're the video director at a church nearby.
Life has many ironies, and a few years back, about 2 years back from this time, through my sister-in-law, my wife heard about an opening in a large church down here in Raleigh called Hope Community Church, and they were looking for a video producer and somebody that not only knew how to produce videos, but also understand the message that they were trying to get out.
Right.
And so be able to come from that angle. And so Sarah turned to me and said, I love what we're doing, but my heart says this is something I'd really like to do. I hate to break up the act.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed, but at the same time, I was like, you got to follow your heart, and if it comes from your heart and not your head, then you gotta follow it.
Sometimes you have a calling in life, and
Yeah.
And is that what made you move down to North Carolina?
It is what decided that we would move. And Sarah and I, and mainly Sarah, have been involved in many projects. Something you and I had discussed. We work with an orphanage in Nairobi, Kenya, called the Rehema Home, and we help out. We do PR. It's all volunteer and sort of mission work.
Yeah.
We got into it, somebody's video, and saying, how do you expect to market anything with a video like that? And they said, like, what should we do? And we ended up, we put our foot in our mouth at that point. Right. And we ended up, next thing we knew, we were, in Nairobi filming stuff. But then we fell in love with all these kids. And
yeah.
What do you do? So whatever we do commercially, we also like to do for nonprofits and that give back.
Absolutely. You got to give back, right? I mean, it's been a long road, long journey, and it's still going. Just look at the room you're in right now. I mean, my God, you're a busy man.
Well, I thought at first that when we came down here, and Sarah started working with them, and she was doing an amazing job right out of the gate. And, and I was like, well, I'll keep working with some of the New York clients, and I'll keep filming New York City.
Right.
But I really liked relaxing for the first time. It was January and it was 70 degrees. And I was like, I was enjoying the yard and trees.
You could get used to that real quick, especially when it's 70 degrees in January. But
I started volunteering, and they had a fledgling control room, but we grew it into like an 8 camera show, and when we do the service. And then when COVID hit, we had to bring the services online immediately.
Right. Sure.
And I started working full time, and now I'm the director of online productions, and we service between 30 and 50,000 people, depending on the time of year.
So the clip that I have is of their, is it a house band?
It's a house band. They have about 20 members because they have four campuses, and so during COVID, you know, when they were rotating, they rotate these band members, but you know, well, they're always rotating. You know, there'll be a full band over here and a full band in this campus.
Right.
They're great. They're amazing musicians. It's anything but boring, and you know, I enjoy working. You know, after working by myself for so many years, or just with Sarah, as an independent production company, it's nice to.
It's a different. It's a refreshing change, as they say. All right, let's take a look. I tell you, you would never think that's a church.
You know, it isn't a bunch of guys sitting around on stools singing "Kumbaya" kind of stuff.
No,
you know,
no.
They're genuine in their belief direction, but it attracts a, you know.
Then the production quality. My God, I mean, the smoke. What do you have, like RoboCams that you use?
Some of it are actually remote cameras, and the pushes get done in post. Some of them are PTZ cameras, and there's maybe 3 operated cameras in all of that, and 14 cameras.
Wow.
And we've won lots of awards among the church associations.
Yeah.
They're great. It's fun. It's interesting. We get to do music videos with them too, and it's everything I want to do. You know, everything. It's allowed me to take years of experience.
Yeah, exactly. And you're offering it up, you know, and it's a great thing that you're doing, and I'm sure they appreciate it.
Right now in these times,
a
lot of people have been turning to the church, and you just really have to give them an experience. That
you have to turn to your faith, especially in nowadays. My God.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's a good way to end the show with you, Chuck. You know, I really appreciate you coming on Buzz Talk Live and discussing your career and what a career it is, and still ongoing. What's next? I mean, hopefully, you know, we can put COVID behind us and move on. And you know, you still got your clients in New York, and
I have a few clients in New York, but you know, actually starting in 2 weeks, we're doing a project with a television station down here, WRAL.
Oh, nice.
And we're doing some documentaries on human trafficking, and also some public service messages and things. And through, you know, if I came down here and started looking for work, it would be more difficult than the route we took, because through the organization, I've met dozens and dozens of people in different businesses that are all looking for for somebody they can trust. You know,
Kind of went
So-
in the back door, and you know, you found a niche, and it's
So
working
if you
out
were
for you.
if you were to have asked me 18 months ago, I would be doing this. I would say you're
You're out of your mind.
you're nuts. But you know, I have a true appreciation for it. And
Hey, you know, I tell you, you know, some of this, you know, we've discussed this. Some of the technology that's out there now, you know, all the church ministries and the productions that they put on, they're using this stuff, and it's almost like they're beta testing it out there for industrials, for corporate America, for us to use. And
it's a big business.
it is,
it's
yeah,
not in those terms, but the whole house of worship
yeah.
industry is huge.
Yeah.
And
That's a whole division, like, you know, that Sony has probably, you know, a house of worship division, you know, where they have, you know, equipment that's structured just for their use.
well, you know, it's the same equipment, but they need to push it and tell you that you need it for your use.
Right.
You know, they also have a scientific division, and they have, you know, a sports.
Mhm.
There's a guy who does nothing but go to stadiums and talk to sports teams, you know. So
All right, Chuck. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you
absolute
stopping by.
pleasure.
Say
It's
again?
a great pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I wish you all the luck in the world. And tell Sarah that, you know, the same. And thanks again for stopping in.
My pleasure.
All right, you stay right there.
Take care.
Amazing. Chuck was awesome tonight, and thank God, you know, he was. We got him in, and the rain, I think, held up. We're still on the air. It's amazing. But you know, I tell you, Chuck is he's a true professional, and he makes lovely pictures. So you can follow him. You know, go to ducku.com. Crazy Duck Productions. He's really one of a kind. Tune in again on Sunday night. Sunday nights are going to be a very important discussion that we're going to have with my guest from the Live Events Coalition, and Eileen Velwa, and she's raising awareness to our industry, and she's doing it in a very unique way, where she's you know, going to the government and raising a voice and helping us as an industry, raising awareness with videos. So tune in on Sunday night at 9 p.m. for a very important program. All right. Thanks again, and good night, America.